Tony in Liverpool. Tony, you are now PM for the day.
Hiya, mate.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm from Liverpool. If I was Prime Minister for the day, I would send all the homeless, every single one in the UK, to France, put them up in a tent. A couple of days later, I'd send them back to the UK with no documentation. I'd put them all up in a hotel, and then I'd give them a job.
This is the homeless, yes? Did you say?
This is the homeless. I would send them across the
You think we look after the homeless worse than we look after asylum seekers, is what you're really saying, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah.
It's the unfairness of it, isn't it?
Liverpool, Nick, at the moment, mate, is unbelievable with the homeless, and, you know, it's not right. I mean, they sell the big issue, not the homeless, the immigrants.
Well,
No,
I mean, look,
English.
that it could be. I mean, look, I've got to say this because it is possible. There could be an immigrant who's actually already been accepted into this country who is now homeless. But are you telling me that there are so many homeless in Liverpool, right? That you're almost tripping over them?
I wouldn't say you're tripping over them, but you're tripping over the tents.
Are you? The tents that Suella Braverman didn't like.
There's tents everywhere in Liverpool where the homeless. I mean, one was set on fire last week, a tent.
Was
with
it?
A girl. You know, it's disgusting. I mean, they're all sleeping in a graveyard in the old cathedral in Liverpool, in an old graveyard with tents. That's the homeless for you, Nick. So if I was Prime Minister, I'd say to the homeless in the UK, go away, go to France, take all your documentation, we will take it off you. We'll send you back to England, we'll put you up in a hotel for a year, and we'll give you a job. Guaranteed.
It's always struck me, Tony, that in COVID we dealt with homelessness. You know, it was simple as that. There was the political will to deal with it, and we seem to have lost it. Listen, hold on a second. I'm going to ask Alan about this. Homeless has been with us a long time. It's very disturbing. It's also a lot of huge number of veterans who find all sorts of problems readjusting. But you would have thought if there was this easy answer, we'd have it by now. Have you got any thoughts on the subject?
Well, yeah, it's a complicated one, isn't it? Because it's one of these things where, unfortunately, there's no votes in it. So although politicians, I think, are concerned about the fate of, you know, human beings on their streets, it's not something that is seen to be a major priority compared to other areas. So, but you made the point that during COVID, we did deal with it. We decided to sweep people up, put them into, you know, hostels, hotels, just to make sure they were safe and this wasn't going to be a pandemic issue. So it does seem to be there are some easier answers. Clearly, they're going to cost money, though, and that's where the problems normally lie and start in government about where you choose to apportion things. Part of this, though, is also local government. I mean, different local governments have different policies as well on this subject. It sounds like Liverpool is not doing a particularly good job in its own background. Let's
ask Tony that. I think the mayor in London is a former MP, Steve Rotherham. Do you feel the council are doing enough to deal with this, Tony?
I don't think the council have got any powers to do as much for them, truthfully. I mean, the Liverpool City Council had the power taken off them, didn't they? I think it's only just been given back.
Well, I know they've got a pretty... I mean, to be fair, Steve Rotherham, although he's an ex-Labour MP, I think he's actually a pretty good advocate for Liverpool. I think maybe we should look into that. Maybe I'll even get someone to look into the issue, particularly in Liverpool, and get someone on. Tony, thank you for that. A very thoughtful and compassionate response to what he would do for a day as Prime Minister. Are you OK if we take one more? Because I think it's testing us, this, isn't it? Mark from Bristol, you are Prime Minister. You've just won the election. Thank you for joining us. What are you going to do?
Right. Well, thanks for the opportunity, because nobody probably vote for the policy I'm going to put forward.
Well, let's hear it.
Right. No, I think we ought to increase government expenditure by about 5% to generate about 50 billion to pay off the national debt and reduce the interest payments and everything else. To finance it, I'd probably use the change the tax system for dividends, capital gains tax, bank interest, where it would all go at the same rate as income tax. I'd also increase the thresholds and then increase the basic rate of tax to pay for it.
Now, there's an awful... Sorry, go on. Go on, you haven't finished, Prime Minister. Carry on.
Yeah, okay. If we don't do it, then if there's another financial crisis coming down the line, the IMF will be stepping in to control our finances.
Listen, there's a lot of things in there that I like. I think the thresholds, things like this, reducing tax, etc. I think there's one calculation problem there. 50 billion is nowhere near the national debt. I think the national debt...
No, there's about 2.7 trillion.
That's it, yes.
What I'm saying is if we do that year by year, first you're starting to reducing the £109 billion of debt interest. That can be added to the 50 billion. It's like an accelerating process.
You see, the end of the day, the one thing that I think resonates and is beginning to resonate with more people as a result of the interest rate rise, Alan, is that we are now spending in interest. I think it's something like 80 billion a year, something like that, which is more than we spend on things like...
More than 100 billion.
Yeah, and it's more than we spend on defence, on education, and it's a department, if you like, in its own right. These are crazy economics, aren't they? So listen, Mark, thank you for your manifesto. I'm going to just have a chat about that now. So stay watching, stay listening on that. This is a huge problem that really no government is facing up to, is it? Because we're never going to get rid of this debt. It's going to hang around for generations, isn't it?
Well, I mean, if you go back in time, not that long ago, to the 20-teens, we were making significant progress, of course, towards getting us down to, sort of a very small national debt. And then, of course, what happened? COVID came along and everything destroyed the public finances in that respect. But yes, the problem we face right now is that interest rates, the debt repayment on is just huge, and it is sucking our ability to make change in other areas. And what you have to do fundamentally is try and pay that debt down. I mean, the philosophy...
It's in trillions, though.
Of course. Yeah. Don't forget, part of the philosophy was to do this at a time of inflation. You'd inflate your debt away, basically.
Yes.
But inflation's now crumbling, and you're left with a large debt. So it's a significant problem in terms of understanding where we are at.
But in many ways, whilst you're referring to that period, and indeed I was in Parliament at the time when we were actually tackling, if you like, the debt. The price that was being asked of people, and this brings us back to our conversation at the beginning, is austerity, if you want to call it for one word or another, reducing the spending, etc. And in many ways, we weren't reducing debt so much as reducing the amount of debt we were incurring, and that's what austerity was. That, in truth, when you look at it, but the appetite in the public is for more government intervention. I think people like the Henry Jackson Society and the Nick de Bois of the world. I'm wondering if our time has passed. What is the first response to every problem? And I would challenge people listening and watching for this. Normally it's, what's the government going to do about this? The instinct now is very much, what are the government going to do? They're going to have to intervene, and that costs money. It's almost as if they want more government intervention.
And I would encourage everyone to listen to Jeremy Hunt as a result from what he said this week in Davos, where he pointed out quite clearly the economies that are the most successful in the world today, and I'm talking about advanced economies, not developing world ones, are those with lower tax, not higher tax. If you want government to spend on everything, that means high. Yeah, but Singapore is a small city-state. But he's talking about the US, for example, as a prime example of where you're at. Tax burden much lower than where we are. More dynamic economy, more productive economy. If you actually want to get more money into our system in the sense of actually having a bigger economy that's going to grow everything, you need to free people to do that. And the problem with state spending is that while it seems to be seductive to start with, you go, well, the government can pay, will pay for it, and it's fine. Well, then you're either doing one of two things. You're either going to incur yet more debt that will eat into your ability to spend in 5-10 years' time, or you're going to then demand more taxes. But guess what? We're already at the highest tax burden since the Second World War.
But I'm going to have to stop. But I just want to tell you this, because I keep reminding people, I think the heart of the problem is government measures success by how much it spends. So Gavin Barwell, now Lord Barwell, he used to send out as Chief of Staff to Theresa May a weekly email that used to excite me when I saw the first one, and it said government achievements, and I would genuinely be excited. When I opened it up, it was a list of how much we spent. And isn't that the problem? Who's talking about outcomes? Who's talking about freeing the entrepreneurs? Who's talking about reducing what we spend and improving productivity, etc., etc.? That's what gets me.